When it rains, it pours at West Ham. Now, you've just heard in the last hour or so, you could say, probably one of the worst kept secrets around in the transfer market is that West Ham are closing in on a deal to sign Max Kilman from Wolves. A new bid is expected to be accepted from Wolves, expected to be around £40 million for the centre-back. Apparently, Kilman has already agreed on personal terms as Lopetegui wants him at all costs, as was revealed several weeks ago. Sky Sports, we've got Fabrizio Romano, very reputable. People are stating that this deal will probably go ahead in due course. But there's no point in me sitting here talking to you about what Kilman brings to the club, but we'll bring someone on who has been watching him for several years, and that guy is a good friend of the channel. It's Dave Azzopardi from Talking Wolves. How you doing, Dave? You all right?
I'm very well, thank you, mate. Yeah, good to be on the channel again.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because, you know, usually when we come on, we're talking about the game that we're about to play against each other. However, the last couple of times you've come on, we've taken someone who was formerly your boss, and now it looks like we're about to sign Max Kilman. So, first and foremost, what's your kind of, how do you feel about the potential of losing Max Kilman? Forgetting the fee as such.
It's a weird one because he's sort of almost always been, I say always, but over the last sort of 3 years or so, he's almost been part of the furniture at Wolves. It was great to see him break into the Wolves first team. It took him a couple of seasons to do that on a regular basis, but pretty much it being ever present over the last 2 to 3 years. So it will be strange if and probably when he goes. Never expected it at the start of the summer. I think it was no doubt Wolves would have to sell one of the big hitters. And in my eyes, that was probably going to be Pedro Neto, and he may well still go. But this is an interesting one. I think the fact that Wolves have accepted this probably means they've got their eyes on either a formation change or already got this sort of replacement set up. But a surprise to me. I really didn't expect it.
I think what we, as West Ham fans, expected was Lopetegui has a particular style of play. Now, we've brought you on before, Dave, and you've spoken to us about what was expected, especially when you had him in your time at Wolves. But as West Ham fans looking in at Max Kilman, he definitely changes the full dynamics of how we will be playing as such. Now, just before we came on, I briefly mentioned to you this probably is a defender that wouldn't have suited a David Moyes low block style. So what can you tell me about his style of play and what he can and what he could bring maybe to West Ham? And I know it's tough, Dave. I know it's weird because I know we're talking about a player that's playing currently for you that could be coming to our club. And I think I've done this before when players have, like, you know, when Declan Rice moved and I went onto Arsenal channels and we're telling them how good he was. You know, it's a tough one to talk about, isn't it? But also an interesting one.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of, I'll try and give an honest review of him. First, I'm not surprised as such that Lopetegui's gone back in for him, because it was interesting even when Lopetegui joined Wolves, the sort of dynamic of the backroom staff that he had. It was clear there were people that he knew of, but he brought in people that could either speak decent English or had worked in England before. I think one of the coaches had worked at West Ham Women, for argument's sake, that he brought in. So he's obviously doing that as well. He knows who he gets on well with English football and who can play his style of football. So it's interesting that he's gone in for Kilman. But Kilman, in terms of him as a footballer, very good ball-playing defender, sort of range of passing, comfortable with the ball at his feet, very comfortable in bringing the ball out of the defence as well if needed. There was a great goal. I think it was probably longer ago than I think now, possibly about 2 years ago, when we played in Benidorm, and he picked the ball up from defence and drove all the way forward and scored, like, just generally all on his own. It's a brilliant goal. You can probably find that on YouTube. But yeah, in terms of as a ball playing, quite a modern defender, I think that's dead air. And you'll hear it a lot. There's sort of a running joke in the Wolves community about his futsal background, because that always gets brought up, because he played as an England international in futsal. So in terms of his technical ability, he's very, very good. In terms of if you were sort of comparing him to sort of an old school defender, that's probably the things he lacks a little bit, the sort of nitty gritty, the aggression side of things, the 50-50s, the duels. He's obviously a very tall lad, but in terms of build, he's still quite slim. So it was quite nice to have when we signed Craig Dawson off you guys, because you've got sort of a more old-fashioned sort of put your head where it hurts defender, whereas Kilman, in my opinion, probably doesn't have that as a strength really. And that's where you're going back to what you said with David Moyes. That's probably Dawson is more of a Moyes defender, whereas Kilman I don't think quite is. But like I said, if Lopetegui's wanted to play an attractive style of play and a possession style of play, Kilman's definitely the man. And I've no doubt he could be a success for you. But going off, I'll probably say a good 75-80% of Wolves fans are fairly happy with this move, because I think, no disrespect to Max, I think there are better defenders on the market for the fee that West Ham are looking to pay.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes it interesting, because even in the West Ham Network group chat, we're sitting here and we're talking about £40 million. It's a lot of money. It really is a lot of money. But what it does do is buy you Premier League experience. And I think that's something that West Ham have really lacked. And sometimes we've brought players in, Zuma, who, has had a kind of okay West Ham career, probably particularly because of his Premier League experience, and laterally injury-prone player, not being great. But spending that amount of money, but what it does do is it's one player that automatically shows you the future of maybe the style of play that West Ham are going to do, and definitely changes that. And to be honest with you, I can get why. I think so many clubs, and I don't know what it's like at Wolves, but West Ham, when you're linked to a player, sometimes it's like the difference of maybe paying £4 or £5 million more to get the player that you want. And when you're a fan watching it, you're just if the boss wants it, if the head coach and the technical director want that player, pay the going rate. So Wolves, are going to lose a captain, then you're going to want to protect your asset and therefore gain as much financial clout you possibly can. And it's a good deal probably for both parties, to be honest, because West Ham need we need a bit of a transition in defence, a massive transition in defence. He could probably come in and kickstart that quickly. But you walk away with a very good fee that you can reinvest back into the squad. But in terms of, you just mentioned there, partnerships, who was his kind of main partnership? Where was the most success in defence when Kilman was there?
So this is one of the things, and so you've come across it there as well. I think in terms of a deal for both clubs, I think it will suit both parties. Like I said before, I think that I have no doubt that Kilman could genuinely go to West Ham and it would be a success, because it's very rare, even at £40 million, to find a left-footed defender, English, and with the years of Premier League experience that he's got as well. So if you said it like that, you would probably be expecting to pay that sort of fee. But my one reservation with Max was that if Gary O'Neill wants to switch to a back four, and there's rumours that obviously because we played a back five the majority of the season, I just don't think Max Kilman, as strange as it sounds, is cut out to play in a back four. And that's why maybe why he's not made the England setup as well. I think Conor Cody made it previously because of his sort of presence in the dressing room, as mad as that sounds, as a leader, that worked quite well. And Gareth Southgate obviously liked that. And I think Conor Cody was perfect player to play alongside Max Kilman as well, because Cody can bark orders, and I think he had that with Dawson as well, because when Cody went, we missed that, and Dawson came in, and with that experience helped Max Kilman a lot. So although he was captain for Wolves, I think he didn't really show that leadership side. You used to be able to hear Conor Cody barking orders at players, whereas Kilman was completely different to that, a much quieter character on the pitch. So certainly I had more joy with him playing in the middle of a back three rather than a back four. Like I said, last season predominantly played with mainly Dawson to the right of him and Totti Gomez to the left of him. Not to say he can't play in a back four, because we've seen that. We saw that under Lopetegui. That's how Lopetegui wanted to play. We saw Kilman and Dawson. Some games it worked well, but then towards the end of the season, we lost by 4, 5, 6 goals a few times under Lopetegui. So ultimately, that's what made Gary O'Neill sort of want to switch to a back five. So there are some reservations about this. I would have some reservations in as a West Ham point of view with how Lopetegui is going to deploy him and how he's going to play. But on the flip side of things, I still think there's positives to look at. Going back to what I said earlier about the experience, about being left-footed and so on. I think it's hard to find that for under 40 million, to be fair. I think if Wolves are looking to replace him, they're going to have to go abroad, and they're going to have to go for someone that necessarily doesn't have top-flight experience.
And I think that's something that West Ham have kind of tried to navigate through over the last couple of seasons. We brought a player in, 𝙆𝙆𝙇𝙈𝘼𝙉. I still think West Ham should look at trying to keep him. He's a ball-playing defender, but it looks like he doesn't want to stay here. And it looks like we're going to have to generate so much income back from him as we possibly can. You know, there's rumours of Zouma potentially leaving, but apparently he doesn't want to leave. He's our captain, but I don't think he is our captain material. And I wonder if Max Kilman's been bought in to be the captain of West Ham. It's a big move, you know, coming in, being straight away, given that armband. But, you know, if he's a Lopetegui guy, then that could be, you know, a match made in heaven. But we do have a kind of couple of no-nonsense defenders. But either way, it looks like the transformation is that he wants to transform our defence, and starting off with Max Kilman, bringing him in would be a very good start. But all in all, I think we've both agreed it's you know, it's not 100% confirmed, but it's pretty much done. But I think we probably agree it's probably a good deal for Wolves. And okay, maybe West Ham have paid a little bit over the odds, and there's always a risk attached to that. And right now, I think it looks like a very good deal for Wolves in terms of the finances that are coming in. But hopefully it works out to be a good deal for both clubs as such. And you, like you said, you can go and reinvest it. The hard part, as you've just said previously, is if you're looking for a Premier League proven English left-footer centre-back who can play football.
There's not many. Yeah.
There's not many, and you're going to have to pay the going rate for it. So you are going to have to go abroad. You're probably going to have to look at an unheard-of player and try and unearth somebody from somewhere as well. Were you going to say something there, Dave?
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I mean, like I said, I think there's the positives of both parties. I think there's also another winner in his former club, Maidenhead, who Wolves purchased him from for about £35,000. And I believe they're getting between 10 and 15% of this deal. So for a non-league club to be picking up probably between 4 to 6 million is, you know, unbelievable for them.
Huge,
so,
yeah.
I mean,
lots of winners.
Hats off to the Wolves sporting director, Matt Hobbs, who discovered him. I remember there's a story he said where Wolves didn't want to buy Max Kilman. They said at the time it was for the 21s, and I think he was 20. And they said, we want to make the 21s a much younger squad, so we're not interested in him. And Matt Hobbs basically said, I will give you the money to buy this guy, and I'll take that back when we sell him. We have to sign him. Wolves ended up agreeing to it, and, you know, look at it now, you know, making a lot of money on him. So, I mean, in terms of PSR absolutely. As well for us, and it's such a big thing in the Premier League right now, it's big for us to really help balance our books. But ultimately, I think there's a lot of people that are coming out of this with, you know, that with it looking like a good deal. I think, you know, Max will probably get a much bigger contract. His agent's probably getting a wedge. West Ham are getting a good Premier League proven player. Wolves are getting the money, and Maidenhead making a lot of money as well.
Yeah. So. Yeah, tick all round. Dave, mate, thank you very much for joining us. I know it was a short and sweet one, but it does give us a really good insight into the sort of player that West Ham can expect to get. And, you know, unless we do any other deals between now and the season, then we'll talk to you for hopefully the preview for the coming season.
Yeah, fingers crossed, mate. Yeah, thanks for having me again,
Dave. Take it easy, mate. Thanks for that. Cheers. Always good to get obviously an opposition fan's opinion, in particular when it's a player that comes from that club. So keep an eye on the channel. We'll update you as soon as any of this stuff does become more official. But the Max Kilman to West Ham looks like it is going to be happening. It looks like he's going to be the next player coming in as West Ham start to ramp up our summer transfer business. Players were back, of course, in pre-season training, so it looks like West Ham are trying to ramp up and get the business done nice and early. Join us for the Hammers headlines later on. Take it easy and come on, you Irons.